Thanks a lot, participants, for joining this evening. We'll be talking about crime analytics. Since Abhijit has already introduced me, I will not reintroduce myself. I will get straight to the topic of crime analytics. Now, insofar as today's presentation is concerned, I have five main goals in this presentation. The first one being introduction to crime analytics. What exactly is crime analytics? What are the different facets of crime analytics? This is something which we'll be seeing. The second goal that I have is to talk about the types of crime analytics. The third goal which I'll be talking about is how do we sort of analyze crime data? What are the strategies? What are the tools? What are the tips? What are the tricks that we use to handle crime data? We'll be seeing this through what is known as fluid framework. I'll talk about it in greater detail when I come to the fluid framework. Thirdly, I've got a couple of exciting case studies which I had done. This case study gives us both a strategic as well as tactical insight about the world of crime. And fifthly, what are some of the key insights that we can use to address the problem of crime? So these are the five goals that I have. In case you have any questions, you can please feel free to address these questions in the chat. So types of crime analytics. Now, when we look at the types of crime analytics, there are multiple types of crimes that we can see in today's day and age. Even before talking about crime analytics, my own interest in crime analytics, if you're a police officer and you want a quick solution about what is the immediate action that I can take in the next week to control crime in my area, in my locality, let's say in Kurmangala or in Jayanagar or in Kanakpura, then you would be looking more of tactical crime analysis. So CIT, tactical crime analysis, strategic crime analysis. I move the fourth type of crime analysis, wherein we are talking about administrative crime analysis. Here the emphasis is more on what are the administrative needs of the police agency, the government, and its community. So this is what we are looking at, the four different types of crime analysis. I will sort of do a deep dive into some of these during the case study. Now, what is the crime analytics pipeline? So there is a beginning as well as an end when we talk about data analysis. Now, this entire stream of crime analytics pipeline can be broken down into three areas. The first one is pre-crime analysis, second being runtime analysis, and the third one is post-crime analysis. Please take this as indicative and not exhaustive, because it's not possible for me to list out all the analysis that we do under each of these branches. Under pre-crime analysis, mainly we are looking at early warning signals that our analysis reveals so that we can apprehend incidents like murder, we can apprehend incidents like larceny, theft, vehicle theft, and also prevent crimes. So particularly, we are looking at predictive analytics here. We are also looking at social media data and such things. Prepare a heat list of those zones which are highly vulnerable to crime. This is what we do in the pre-crime analysis. Now, runtime analysis is the second branch of second step of crime analytics pipeline. Here, we are going to do an area-wise or a region-wise analysis of the risk factors. For example, in a particular area, if you see a lot of liquor stores or if you see bars, clubs, if you see stadium, you can sort of expect high incidence of crime and such things in those areas. Secondly, we also look at social media feeds and such things, which can be very, very helpful in specifically identifying areas or spots, localities wherein you could see agitation and other incidents of crime. All these things fall under what is known as runtime analysis. The last type of analysis in this pipeline is basically post-crime analysis. My second case study, which I'm going to talk about in a few moments from now, is mainly about post-crime analysis. What do we do in post-crime analysis? Mainly, we look at trends and patterns for various types of crime in different areas to support law enforcement agencies. Secondly, very, very important, we pull out the threats. We look at the lead identification, and once we are able to identify the leads that lead to the criminal, we will be able to understand his modus operandi of the crime. And once we are able to sort of make a mapping between the modus operandi of the crime and the criminal's profile, we will be able to apprehend the criminal. The third one is basically identifying the links between the suspects and their involvement in crimes and criminal activity. It looks pretty scary because we have a lot of steps here, but there is a framework which is called as fluid, which I'll talk about, which sort of breaks this entire sequence of analysis into very simple, very user-friendly and easy to use approach. I'll talk about fluid in the coming slides. So this is about Project Fluid. I'll talk about what is Project Fluid and how we can use Project Fluid as a very, very effective as well as a very, very efficient approach to tackle the menace of crime. Now, when we speak about Fluid, this entire approach of Fluid is broken down into 6 different steps. And as you can see here, the first step is about collaborate, wherein we empathize with the end user. Here, the end user is actually the citizen, because not just the citizen, but also the police officer, because the police officer would need something very quick, something very easy to understand and implement so that he can reduce the incidents of crime in his particular area. So identifying the stakeholders, eliciting the pain points and empathizing with the end user becomes very, very important in the collaboration stage. The second stage is about the defining stage. Here we define what are our key performance indicators? What is it that we are after? I want my crime rate in a particular region to go down by 3%. Currently, it may be 10%. I want incidents of murder to go down by 7%. Let's say 3% or 4%, whatever be the number. We list it out in concrete numbers so that it's very, very clear for everybody that this is the KPI that we are hunting. So listing out KPI as well as key analytical milestones also become a critical step in the define stage. Moving on to the third stage, which is collate. Now this is very, very critical because there is a principle in data science which is called as GIGO, G-I-G-O, garbage in, garbage out. If I have poor quality data, if I've got weak variables, obviously I'll not be able to come out with pinpointed insights. So what we do in the collate stage is basically we resort to a lot of variable transformation. We resort to feature engineering from the existing data. We try to maximize and obtain. We try to pull out as many features as possible. And this particular collate stage is very, very important. And I'll speak about this in the first case study, wherein I have been able to sort of generate from one variable. We have generated around 12 different variables, and each of these 12 different variables are very, very important in predicting the next crime. So collate is the third stage. I'll move on to the fourth stage, which is build. Here we are talking about testing hypothesis. Is it possible that those areas wherein we see weak socioeconomic indicators are highly vulnerable to crime? This may be a hypothesis, but does the data corroborate this? Is it possible that there are certain pockets in Bangalore or Karnataka or any part wherein we see high assaults on women? If we see a high or a peak in assaults of women in certain pockets, what are the reasons behind it? Now we can address all these questions through the power of EDA or exploratory data analysis. We construct dashboards, models, we build statistical models, and we go on improvising on this. So collaborate, define, collate, build. The third stage is basically the deployment stage, wherein whatever model that we build, we are going to implement in a real-time scenario, and we look for early warning signals so that the model can effectively capture incidents of crime. And finally, we look at the impact of our solution on the GDP. Remember, when we implement any solution, it has to be tracked in terms of how many lives have we been able to save. What is the expected saving that we have been able to make? What is the reduced budget that we've been able to incur because of this? So capitalize or monetize would be the last stage. So collaborate, define, collate, build, deploy, capitalize. These are the 6 stages in which any analytical journey would and should proceed. And we are going to see step by step as to how we have used each of these 6 stages in the case study that I'm going to talk about in a few moments from now. So the first case study is what I'm going to talk about now. Here we are going to talk about both strategically, what are the long-term objectives, as well as we are going to discuss from a tactical perspective, what are the immediate action points that we can take to reduce incidents of crime.
Now, one question that might pop up in our mind is why are we doing crime analytics, right? We can do attrition analysis, we can do a lot of other default analysis, fraud analysis, and bank and such things. Why are we doing crime analytics? First is because increased incidents of crime hinders the growth of a nation. Now, if there are a lot of if there is a huge spike in incidents of crime in a particular period of time, then foreign direct investments and such things will suffer. Uh, uh, those nations, multinational companies, and those multinational companies and other industries who want to make an investment in a particular country will think twice before making an investment, because they know, they just get the feeling that because of high incidents of crime, a particular region or a district or a state or a country is very unsafe. So this has a big impact on foreign direct investment, and a revenue will go down. Thirdly, the international image of a country itself takes a big hit, and the worst case could be that we are attracting a lot of sanctions and such things from many countries whom we call as allies. So these are some of the larger goals that we are trying to address through the power of analytics and how we are going to use analysis in tackling crime. I'll make a move on to the next goal here. Here we are looking at data. At the end of the day, the data scientist is as good as the data that he has. What are the important data points that you can look at? You can look at emails, you can look at video footages, you can look at chat data, you can look at text files, you can look at CCTV files, you can look at GPS information and such things. As I said, as I was just giving the example of the DSP in Palakkad, he mainly looked at the CDR, the call detail records, as well as the tower detail records. And by looking at the pattern of communication and such things, they were able to apprehend the murder. So each crime has its own footprints, and by tracing these footprints, it could be through email communication, video footage, or any of these input points, we will be able to track the criminal.